Okay, hi everyone, so I'm Smithy Q, and welcome now to game 17 of this annotated game section. And we're going to be looking at something a little bit different today. This is a very common setup in modern chess, especially modern online blitz chess. And then in particular, we're going to be looking at not the moves with g6 or with c6, but rather with e5. And then after knight f3, knight goes to d7, we have this particular structure. Simon Williams and a pair of Dutch authors, who I unfortunately do not remember and cannot recall at the moment, they championed this not as the Philidor, as it was mostly known, but as something called the Black Lion, or at least that's the name they invented for it, with the idea of playing c6, queen goes to c7, bishop usually goes to e7, and then there's a really interesting. Here, let me just put some of these moves on the board. So let's just imagine we got something like this. We're going to castle. Maybe go rook e1, queen goes to c7. Um, sure, bishop e3. Why not? And then black is going to do this interesting idea with h6. Maybe white will play h3. And then he's going to play g5. And he's going to reround this knight around over here and use this rook and try to attack. And it's really funky. It's surprisingly hard to play against. The computer hates it, of course. The computer says that white is winning 6 ways till Sunday. But in practical games, I'm looking at the live chess database right now, black is scoring much, much better. I don't know if this is what the black player in this particular game was going to try, but it's certainly a modern, trendy setup. And I want you to notice what white did. Or, sorry, let me go back. When we look at this position, we see black's plan. And it's quite simple. Move this knight, put it here, use the rook, and start attacking. That's going to be black's plan. What's white's plan? It's really, really frustrating because there's no real weaknesses. Like, even if we open the center, okay, this pawn's fully, like, there's no immediately obvious sacrifices. And so what are our next moves going to be? Maybe we bring the rook in, but then what? These positions are really, really tense. And they're subtle and they're not easy. And again, with black, black has a really easy plan, and that's probably why black wins most of the games here. So let's back up. So there's a couple of ways that you can stop this idea. And again, I don't know if the black player was actually going to try that. But I want you to compare how hard it was for white to find moves versus after the game with g4. Now, yes, we're giving up a pawn. And then after rook g1, the knight comes all the way back. What do we get in exchange for the pawn? Well, we have this open file. And now remember what black was doing? Black was playing h6, g5, rook g1. Like, he's playing like 8,000 moves, trying to use the pawns and maybe get an attack on the g file. We spent 2 moves. 1, 2, we've got an open g file. Now, look at the rest of white's moves. Okay, we've got to finish developing. All right, so let's put our bishop on the best square, aiming right at f7. Makes perfect sense. We're already threatening, maybe. Knight goes to g5. So black has to take a pawn move to stop it. All right, sorry. We play bishop e3, developing another piece. Then black, he makes a very common pawn move. This is securing the d5 square. Maybe he's preparing b5 in the future. But again, notice it's a pawn move. Now white, seeing that he's got a big lead in development, in fact, all of his minor pieces and a rook are developed, so he's going to exchange. And now let's just finish it off. Queen d3, and then we're going to castle. Do you see how easy all of these moves are? Further, look how hard it is for black to develop. How are you going to get this bishop in the game? So he stuck his queen in front, trying to overprotect this pawn. He's also got to be really careful because if this bishop were moved, obviously that pawn's going to drop. And if black isn't up a pawn, he's just got a terrible position. Black can never really castle queenside, or I don't see how that's going to happen. Uh, it's really hard to think of a move. Black ends up playing g6. Again, blunting this of the rook. Maybe going to play bishop g7. But again, black is making, what, how many moves with his pawns? All the pawn moves. He's got neither bishop developed, whereas white's fully developed. And so again, here's where white can now switch into sort of middle game mode. We've developed, we've castled, we got our share of the center. What do we do next? What we want to do, again, is open more lines for our pieces. So in a perfect world, we'd attack. But none of the attacking, like, there's nothing to attack right away. So what should we do? Let's try and open lines. And so what white does is he plays knight h4. with the idea of going to play f4 next. Open lines and attack. There's also maybe some funny ideas associated with the sacrifice here. On g6, that's also possible, opening lines and attacking the black king before he has a chance to get castled. And now black was really worried, I think, about this g6 sacrifice because he plays rook goes to g8. What do you think of this move? Well, once you move the rook, hopefully we know the rules of chess, you can't castle this way anymore. And it's going to be difficult to castle queenside. You got to move this piece, you got to move this piece. White controls the d file. And so the king's going to be in the center. So we want to open the center. We should be looking at this and saying, excellent. Now black can't escape. White continues the plan. f4. What does black do? Black doesn't know what to do here. Again, he doesn't want to exchange, because then we're just going to recapture. This pawn's going to push forward. Maybe the rook slides over. And again, this is opening up the e-file with his king still there. There are some pieces in the way, but that just looks absolutely suicidal. Can't do that. If we move this knight, for example, then again, we're just going to open the center ourselves. Maybe bring the knight right back. Black doesn't know what to do. Black plays b6. He's going to play bishop b7 castle. Maybe that's the best he's got. All right, this knight has done its job. White brings it back, and look at all this pressure in the center. And then black, again, he now plays h5. I think I just figured out why. There's actually two reasons. Again, this move makes some sense. Maybe the bishop can come here, where it's actually doing something rather than just sitting there all unhappy. And the knight might be able to jump over here, and now the knight at least has a good square. But do you see the convulsions that black is trying to do? Just trying to play normal moves? Whereas white has developed all his pieces, then started advancing in the center. That's pretty simple. Well, we put our stuff in the center. Let's keep going. F takes e5. And now knight goes to g4. So black is trying to recapture with a piece. Again, if you were to just recapture this way, it actually doesn't work because, whoops, that's checkmate. Again, the open d file, opening the position up before black had a chance to castle. And so black was relying on knight goes to g4, so we can recapture with a knight. But hopefully you can see that things are going very wrong for black. And what does he have in exchange? Right now, he's not even up a pawn. So he has to win that pawn back. What should we do? Don't forget that the bishop's being attacked. Sure, it's being defended, but I don't think we want to trade off this bishop. White finds bishop goes to g5. Queen can barely move at all. In fact, there really isn't a safe square unless you're going to want to, throw the queen over here? That looks absolutely devastating. He tries to do the knight takes e5. Oh no, queen goes to d8, and we see the second thing the bishop does. X-ray down, and this looks very similar to the opera game, Morphy's opera mate right there. And so the idea of playing bishop g5 wasn't just to attack the queen. There's also the sneaky X-ray all the way down here. So there's a couple more subtleties that we could go into this game, but I really want you to look at, or the main takeaway, the reason that I wanted to include this game, was the ease of white's play. Like, the moves weren't all, super obvious that you could play them in a bullet game, say, without even thinking. There's still thought behind there. But do we see the general thought process? In exchange for giving up a pawn, white now has that rook. And now it's really, really simple. Develop one piece, develop the next piece. He opens the center. Well, he has a lead in time. That's just absolute textbook. He gets ready to castle. He's completed all the opening tasks, 11 moves. Black is sitting there making pawn moves. So what do? We try and find a way to open the position. Move the knight to advance the pawn. We can bring the knight right back where it's controlling the center. And then once we've done all that, you basically win. Our pieces are in such good positions. Again, you put your pieces on good squares, good things tend to happen. Take bishop g5, and then we have a lovely little checkmate here at the end. And so the odds of you playing something like this or this exact sequence of moves, again, they're very low, but the thought process is near universal. To finish developing, control the center, castle, then use your pieces to attack something. If there's nothing to attack right away, open some lines. Good things tend to happen, like this, a really nice 18-move miniature. So I hope you enjoyed that. A couple games left, and then the series is over. Anyway, so again, Smithy Q, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.